Hello, I'm Emmett Dulaney, and I have the privilege of serving as the director of the DBA program at Anderson University. It's in that capacity that I want to welcome you. I want to welcome you into the DBA family, the DBA cohort. I want to welcome you to Anderson University and welcome you to the Fall School of Business as well. The program has been in existence since 2000. I am the third director of it and have been that for a number of years now. During the course of those years that we've had the program, we've had graduates from almost all 50 states as well as several foreign entities. And we've kind of come up with a good series of policies and such as that we put together into the orientation booklet, which you should have before you at this point in time. In this video set here, if you will, we're going to take a look at those policies and kind of walk through some of the stuff in the orientation booklet. Now, it's important to know that not everything in this booklet is relevant on day one. Some of it has to do with the comps that you'll take later on. Some of it has to do with the dissertation that you'll write later on. But it's important that you're exposed to it early on. And then as you go to different courses as well as to the comps and dissertation, you'll see this material again. So it's always best to know what's coming, know when it's needed, and then know afterwards that you covered all the bases that you needed to cover. So let me welcome you once more. Thank you for being a part of our family. And now, without further ado, let's take a look at some of the key components of that orientation PDF.
Let's walk through the orientation handbook and draw out some of the things that need a little bit more attention paid to them. First off, let's look at the program goals. Well, there's a few of them here. The first is to provide a program of rigor and quality that serves the need of faculty and potential faculty in teaching institutions. There are two main types of educational institutions, one of which is teaching and the second of which is research. Our program is specifically designed to meet the needs of the faculty who are working in teaching institutions. That does not mean that we do not have research as a very key component of our program, but it does mean that we are focused more on the educational side of things and preparing you to educate students as opposed to doing research alongside them. So one of our big focuses here is on teaching institutions and preparing faculty for those roles as opposed to educational institutions. We also want to provide a program that's both rigorous and a realistic alternative for persons who are working full-time. A lot of schools, their graduate programs are designed for individuals to put their life on hold and go be a graduate or teaching assistant for a number of years and then finish after 6 years and go get a job somewhere else. Ours is a hybrid-based program, and so in that hybrid-based program, we have a number of residencies built into the program in which you are expected to come and be on campus, but the rest of the time, you are working independently on your own. So it's designed for working professionals, whether they are teaching at other schools or whether you are working in industry. Most of our residencies are built around time periods when other schools are on breaks. That way it's possible to come and be here without losing any time at your other occupation. We want to provide a strong theoretical understanding of business disciplines. We give conceptual foundations in all the major areas, so accounting, finance, marketing, management, and economics. We also encourage an active approach to the integration of Christian values and faith in the business classroom. We are a Christian university, and we make no bones about that. We will try to incorporate Christianity into every course that we have and try and help you do the same. We want to improve undergraduate student learning by increasing the pedagogical approaches of doctoral students. We've got a course on best practices in college teaching. After the best practices in college teaching, it leads into a practicum. So the best practices is to teach you how to teach, and the second is to basically implement some of the things that are there. Now, in many cases, you may have been teaching for a number of years and really don't think that you need such an approach, in which case I encourage you to actually try different things. So as you look at the pedagogical articles and journals and things like that have come out in recent years, look at what they're talking about and then see if it actually would work in your classroom and give them a try. We also want to develop an increased appreciation of scholarly research and writing within the individual doctoral students. You are expected to do research and you're expected to write about that research and you're expected to write papers the same as you would at any other institution. Our dissertations are approved by ACBSP. Our dissertations become a part of your living legacy that is there. The research that you do has to be as good as it would be at any other institution, and it will live on long after you're gone from our institution. Lastly, we want to increase participation of Christian business scholars in the academy, the educational academy, which is there. Our goal is to get you to be a scholar and to participate in that academy. There are a number of organizations that Anderson University is a part of. Christian Business Faculty Association, CBFA, is one of them. CCCU, Coalition of Christian Colleges and Universities, being another, and so on. So we are part of a number of different institutions making up the academy, which is there. We are only a member of those. So we are not a leader, we are not anything else, but we are a member and we believe very strongly in them, and we hope that through experience to them, you will as well. The program design is it's a program that can be completed in as few as 4 years. It requires 90 hours of graduate level work in business. Those 90 hours come into 3 different categories. The first is 15 classes that you will take, 15 courses, each worth 3 credit hours. That gives you 45 hours of doctoral coursework coming from Anderson University. After completing those 45 hours of doctoral coursework, you then move on to dissertation credit. There is a minimum of 15 hours of dissertation credit that you will have. After you complete all coursework, you will be continuously enrolled in the university. That is one of the stipulations of the university. You will be enrolled for 3 credit hours of dissertation credit each and every semester until you reach 15. Once you've reached 15, then you will be continuously enrolled for 1 semester credit at a time. So it can be that you have 15 hours of dissertation credit, 16, 17, 18, so on. You must be continuously enrolled, and it will be 3 credit hours up until you get to 15, 1 credit hour thereafter. If you defend and finish when you've only taken 9 credit hours, we will retroactively bill you for another 6. One way or the other, you pay for a minimum of 15 hours of dissertation credit. The dissertation credit is billed at a rate that is less than the normal credit rate. It's about 1/2. If you look on the website, you'll find the current charges for dissertation credit as well as for course credit, and you'll see that we try to keep that as low as we can. The intent is not to make a lot of money off of the dissertation credit. The intent is to keep you continuously enrolled, continuously giving you credit, and continuously working towards your dissertation there along with your chair and your committee. As long as you are taking dissertation credit, the grades that you will receive each and every semester will be an IP. It is in progress. At the end of the time, you will either successfully defend or you will not. If you successfully defend, then the grades of all of those IPs becomes A's and your GPA goes up substantially. If you do not successfully defend, if you drop the program, must leave the program, whatever, then those become F's, and that substantially reduces your GPA there. So those will be IPs all the way through until the end. This leaves a few other hours that are there, and that's where we transfer in graduate business coursework from your other program that you were part of. So ideally, you were in a master's program, whether that's a master's in a particular discipline, an MBA, or something along those lines. We do not allow students to come in directly from undergraduate into doctorate. You must have a master's in something, and we will transfer in those 30 hours that are there. If for some reason you do not meet those criteria, you did not finish your master's or something along those lines, we will work with you on an individual basis to be able to make up the hours you need to get the additional hours you need for the 30 that are there. There are 2 components to that 45 hours of coursework that you have. The first is the core. Everyone's taking the core. The core is that we have 3 classes, a total of 9 hours on research methods. So each year that you are in the program, each of the 3 years that you are taking courses, you will take 1 course each year related to research, statistics, and learning how to put the 2 of those together. Second, we have a higher education and teaching methodologies track that consists of 3 courses, one of which is the history of higher education and Christianity. That's a 3-hour course. Then there is the best practices in college teaching course, which is followed up by the practicum. Those give you 9 hours in teaching methodologies and being able to put them to use. Then there's the conceptual foundation courses in the business disciplines. You will take a conceptual foundations course in your discipline. So if you are an accounting student, you will take a conceptual foundations course in accounting. In addition to that, you will take 3 other conceptual foundation courses. one in one in management, one in marketing, one in economics. Everyone will take an additional 3 courses in conceptual foundations besides the one that is their discipline, and that gives you 9 hours there. Again, we are geared towards teaching schools. We believe that most teaching schools are liberal arts schools, and it's very important for you to be well-rounded, and it's very important for you to be able to probably teach in more than one topic if you need to. In addition to the core, there's the major. You will have 18 hours in your discipline. So 18 hours in accounting, finance, management, or marketing. That 18 hours will come from courses that include seminars, global studies, the advanced ethical applications, and then the classroom applications. So those will add up to 18 hours. 18 hours is important because 18 hours is the requirement for most accrediting bodies that they require you to have in your discipline at graduate level coursework in order to be able to teach at that particular level. And so that's why the 18 hours are there. After you complete all coursework, normally done in 3 years, you've got 15 classes out of the way. At the end of that time period, you'll take your qualifying exams. We call these comps. You'll take 2 sets of comps. The first set of comps will be one in each of the conceptual foundation courses. So one weekend, you will get 4 questions, one on accounting, one on management, one on marketing, one on finance. You will answer all of those questions. The next weekend, then, you will get a comp question specific to your discipline. So the first weekend is general comps. The second weekend is the discipline-specific comps that are there. After you've proven proficiency, in other words, you passed your coursework and you passed your comps, you'll be required to complete a dissertation. That process includes writing a proposal of what you want to do, having it approved, coming up with a committee, getting them to agree to help you, and then doing a final defense of the research work and writing it, putting it into a form in which it can be shared with others. A student can complete the program in 4 years. That's the ideal rate that is there. You do so by taking 15 hours in each of the first 3 years, then completing the comp exams and the dissertation during the 4th year. Everybody by default is on that track. So everyone is on that track. It is possible, though, to stretch it out a bit longer and do a 5 or 6 year schedule if you choose to do so. That can be done by simply not taking a course here and there, by sitting out a semester. There are various ways of being able to stretch it out. The graduation requirements are that all coursework has to be completed within 6 years of when the first course was taken at Anderson University. You were accepted into the program in March. You received your syllabus in April. That means that 6 years from that April, all coursework must be done. If coursework is not done within the 6 years, the courses start rolling off. So if the very first course you took was Accounting and Finance Conceptual Foundations, 6 years later you have not finished all of your courses, you must take the Conceptual Foundations of Accounting and Finance again. So it's very important to keep track of that clock to make sure that you have all of the coursework, all 45 hours of credit there, done within 6 years. All of that coursework has to be completed with a cumulative grade point average of 3.0 or better. You must have a 3.0 or better in order to finish the program. You can have a maximum of 2 grades below the B-. If you have more than those 2 grades, you do not meet the requirements and must retake 1 or more courses in order to bring it up. That also will affect that cumulative GPA, which was the earlier bullet there. You must complete the comps. You must complete the dissertation. You must have a dissertation which is in your major field. So I cannot write a paper and do a dissertation on something related to accounting if I am getting a doctorate in marketing. It must apply to that major field. And that dissertation must be completed within 3 years of when coursework is done. So you have 2 clocks to pay attention to here. The first is that all coursework must be done within 6 years. The second is that the dissertation must be done within 3 years of when the coursework is completed. Now, most students will complete all coursework in 3 years, and then they will pass comps, which means that you then start the next clock for the dissertation, and the total time period that you have is 6 in that scenario. If you wanted to milk it, make it last longer, what you would do is you would drag out the coursework, take all 6 years for the coursework, and then have 3 years left for the dissertation. for a maximum of 9. So however you put it together, however your scenario is, you have a minimum window of essentially 3 and 3 is 6, and a maximum window of 9 in which you can get done. The goal is to get done as quickly as you possibly can. The goal is not to milk it. The goal is to get finished as soon as possible. Once you complete the coursework, once you pass the comps, you become ABD, which basically means all but the dissertation. That is a status. That is a status that you can put on your resume. That is a status that makes you more valuable in the market. That is an important distinction to have. A far more important distinction to have, though, is to finish the program and have the DBA that you can put after your name. An application for the graduation has to be filed with the registrar's office 30 days prior to graduation, and we will usually initiate that for you. That's usually not something you need to worry about. Word to the wise regarding publication, presentation, co-authorship. Some faculty members that you work with throughout the program will be very particular about this, and others won't really care a whole lot about it. But if in that pursuit of the DBA, you come up with some papers, you come up with a dissertation, you come up with some other things that basically lend themselves towards publication, then the question becomes, should you put yourself as a sole author, or should you put the instructor that you worked with down as a co-author on that? If it's a situation where the professor has engaged significantly in that class requirement, if they have basically helped you rewrite the paper, helped you with the editing, helped you get that to a point where it can be published, then it is only customary that you would put them down as a co-author. If they had nothing to do with it, it was just simply an idea that came to you while you were sitting in their class, then that's a different scenario whatsoever, and there's really no need to have them as a co-author on that particular paper or presentation that you're doing. A good rule of thumb is to ask yourself, would I have conducted this research if my professor had not assigned it as a course requirement? And if the answer is no, you never would have written the paper, you never would have done the research, you never would have created this deliverable, then it is customary again to put the professor down as a co-author. In all cases, you will put your name first and you would put their name as a co-author. Under no circumstance would you put them as the first author. You did the work, you get the credit for it, they are a co-author on it. Just a word to the wise there. Also, word to the wise, academic integrity. This is directly from the catalog, the Anderson University catalog. It's been cut and pasted from there. Anderson University supports and promotes academic honesty and personal integrity. We regard cheating, plagiarism, and all other forms of academic dishonesty as serious offenses against the university community. Cheating or academic dishonesty is defined as the deception of others about one's own work or about the work of another. Some examples of cheating include, but are not limited to, the list that follows. Number 1, submitting another's work as one's own, or allowing another to submit one's works as though it were his or hers. If you write a paper, your name goes on it. If you write a paper and share it with somebody else so they can also submit it, that's against the academic integrity policy. That's dishonesty, which is there. If you find a paper that someone did for the course 3 years ago and you put your name on it, that is dishonesty. You cannot do that. Second, failure to properly acknowledge the authorities quoted, cited, or consulted in preparing the written work. That is plagiarism. That plagiarism occurs whether it is intentional or unintentional. If you use someone else's words and you do not put quotation marks around those words, that is plagiarism. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable on papers. That is not acceptable on comps. That is not acceptable on the dissertation. At no point in time during this entire program is plagiarism, whether intentional or unintentional, acceptable. And work that you turn in, you should always expect that it will be checked for that. In some cases, it will not be. Some instructors will not pay that much attention to it. In other cases, people will be very particular about it. Take the stance that they are always going to be very particular about it and make sure that you do not commit it. If you quote someone, you put quotation marks around what they said and you give a proper APA style citation for that. Everything needs to be done in APA style. Third form of dishonesty, getting or giving unauthorized help on assignments. If you're told to work on your own and you work with somebody else, that violates that. Fourth, tampering with experimental data to obtain a desired result or creating results for experiments not done. That's called dry labbing. What you do not want to do is you do not want to violate the scientific method where you come up with a hypothesis and then you test the hypothesis. Sometimes people will collect data and then create a hypothesis from that. That is wrong. That is dishonest. The scientific method says that I create the hypothesis first, collect the data, and test the hypothesis. Do not commit the dry labbing. Tampering with or destroying others' work. Submitting substantial portions of the same work for credit or honors more than once without permission of the present instructor. Throughout this program, you will have multiple courses where you have to turn in papers. It is okay to work on the same topic more than once in a different course. It is not okay to turn the same paper in to multiple courses. Each course has a unique requirement associated with it. If you are going to turn in something that you did in a previous paper and turned in for a previous course, get the permission of the instructor to be able to do so. Make sure they understand that that is what you've done. And then lastly, lying about this or any other academic matters. That is dishonesty as well. Probation occurs when your GPA falls below 3.0. If it does so for 2 semesters, then you will be placed on status where you will be evaluated to see whether you should be dropped from the program. The decision whether to keep you or drop you is made by the program director. If you do not like that decision, usually it's not because they kept you, usually because they dropped you. If you do not like that decision, you can appeal that particular decision. You can also appeal grades. The process for appealing being dropped from the program, the process for appealing a grade is exactly the same. First, what you have is 30 days. That's another little clock, another little window which is there. After you receive the note that you're being dropped or after you receive a grade that you do not agree with, you have 30 days in which to begin the following process. If you do not do so, if you wait until too long, then the statute of limitations runs out and you do not have an appeal that you can file. Step 1, discuss the grade with the instructor. The instructor is always the person to turn to first. They're the ones who gave the grade. They're the ones who know what the assignment was. They're always the first step. Sometimes an instructor will make a mistake. Sometimes they didn't grade it properly. Sometimes they didn't take something into account that they said they would and forgot about. So talk to them first. If you're unhappy with where that leads to, then talk to the graduate program director. So talk to the DBA director and say, I'm unhappy with this particular situation. I've talked to the instructor, and this is what we've come to. If you go to the graduate director without going to the instructor first, the very first thing they're going to ask you is, have you talked to the instructor? And they're going to send you back to there. So step 1 must be done first, and then step 2. If you're unhappy with the result from the graduate director, then consult the dean of the school. So the dean of the Fall School of Business would be the next step to turn to. The dean of the Fall School of Business will first ask you if you've talked to the graduate director and the instructor. So make sure you've done step 1 and 2 before you do step 3. If you are unhappy there, you can approach the chair of the Anderson University Graduate Council. The Anderson University Graduate Council director will put together an appeals committee, which will consist of 1 other doctoral student as 3 faculty members on the grad council, and they will listen to your appeal. And they will then make the decision that is binding at that particular point in time. At that point in time, you've run out of other options which are available. If you have any questions about this, I know we went through it very quickly. Consult the orientation handbook that is there, or send questions. Send questions to me, Emmett Dulaney, EA Dulaney at Anderson.edu. I'll be more than happy to answer them.